The massive golden ship appeared in Earth's sky without warning. It was bigger than any space station humans had ever built. The ship looked like it was made of pure light and metal that seemed to flow like water. On every television screen across the planet, the same message played in perfect English. People of Earth, we are the Galactic Empire. We have watched your species for many years. Today we come to you with an urgent request. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the Terran Defense Force headquarters. She was a short woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole life preparing Earth's defenses against alien invasion. She never expected aliens to come asking for help. The alien who appeared on the screen was tall and blue, with 4 arms and no hair. Its voice was calm and deep. I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Imperial Council. Our empire spans 10,000 star systems. We have existed for over 3,000 of your years. But today we face a threat that could destroy us all. Sarah crossed her arms and watched. Around her, dozens of military officers stared at their screens in shock. For over 50 years, humans had been sending radio signals into space, hoping to contact other intelligent life. The signals had all been ignored. Something terrible has awakened in the outer regions of our galaxy, the ambassador continued. We call them the Void Devourers. They consume everything in their path. Entire star systems disappear when they pass through. Our most powerful weapons cannot stop them. General Roberts, Sarah's second-in-command, whispered to her. This has to be a joke. They're asking us for help? Sarah held up her hand for silence. The ambassador was still talking. We have lost 47 star systems in the past year. Billions of lives have been lost. Our scientists believe the Void Devourers will reach the core worlds within 5 years. When that happens, all intelligent life in the galaxy will end. The screen showed images of space battles. Huge alien ships fired beams of energy that could destroy moons. The beams passed right through dark, writhing shapes that moved between the stars. The shapes seemed to swallow light itself. Our records show that humans have a unique way of solving problems. You think in ways that our species do not. You take risks that we would never consider. This is why we come to you now, despite your limited technology. Sarah felt her jaw clench. Limited technology. For years, the Empire had ignored every attempt at contact from Earth. Human ships that tried to enter Imperial space were turned away. Earth was treated like a planet full of smart animals. We offer you a place in the Galactic Empire, the ambassador said. We will share our technology. We will give you planets to colonize. We will teach you the secrets of the universe. All we ask is that you help us find a way to stop the Void Devourers. The transmission ended. The golden ship stayed in orbit waiting. The command center was completely quiet for a full minute. Then someone started laughing. It was Lieutenant Martinez from Communications. Soon other officers were laughing too. General Roberts was shaking his head and chuckling. Sarah wasn't laughing. She was thinking. Within an hour, the president of Earth's United Government was on a secure video call with Sarah and her staff. President Jackson was a calm man who had led Earth through its first contact with alien technology 10 years earlier. What's your assessment, Admiral? He asked. They're desperate, Sarah said. This empire has existed for thousands of years. They probably think they're the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, but something has them scared enough to ask for help from the primitive humans they've been ignoring. Do you believe their story about these Void Devourers? Sarah nodded. The fear in that ambassador's voice was real, and the battle footage looked genuine. Whatever these things are, they have the Empire running scared. So what do you recommend? Sarah smiled for the first time since the transmission. It wasn't a friendly smile. I recommend we make them wait. Let them sweat for a while. They had no problem ignoring us for 50 years. They can wait a few days for our answer. The president laughed. I like your thinking, but we need to be careful. If this threat is real, the entire galaxy is at stake. Oh, it's real, Sarah said. But that doesn't mean we have to jump just because they snap their fingers. Over the next 3 days, something interesting happened. The story of the Empire's request spread across Earth's internet faster than any news story in human history. But instead of fear or excitement, the most common reaction was laughter. Comedy shows made jokes about advanced aliens needing help from humans. Internet forums were filled with memes showing tiny human spaceships next to massive alien vessels. The most popular showed a human mechanic looking at a broken Imperial warship and saying, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" News programs interviewed scientists and military experts. Dr. Elizabeth Wong, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, appeared on every major network. The Galactic Empire has technology that's centuries ahead of ours, she explained to one interviewer. They have energy shields, weapons that can destroy planets, and ships that can travel between stars in days instead of years. If they can't handle this threat, what makes them think we can? But other experts had different opinions. Professor James Liu from the Military Strategy Institute had spent his career studying human warfare. Humans have always been good at finding unexpected solutions, he said during a televised debate. We're adaptable. We improvise. Maybe that's exactly what the Empire needs right now. Social media exploded with opinions. Some people thought Earth should help immediately. Others said the Empire deserved whatever was happening to them. But the most popular posts were the ones making fun of the situation. A video went viral showing a human child's drawing of stick-figure humans beating up scary space monsters with baseball bats. The caption read, "Human military strategy as understood by my 6-year-old daughter." Ambassador Keth Var appeared on Earth's communication networks again on the 4th day. This time he looked tired and worried. "People of Earth, we understand you need time to consider our request, but please understand the urgency of our situation. Every day we delay, the Void Devourers consume more worlds. We are willing to discuss any terms you might have." Sarah watched the transmission from her office. General Roberts sat across from her desk. "They're getting desperate," he said. "Good," Sarah replied. "Desperate people make mistakes, and mistakes give us leverage. So what's our play?" Sarah leaned back in her chair. "We help them, but we do it our way on our terms, and we make sure they understand that Earth isn't some junior partner in their empire. We're equals. Think they'll agree to that?" Sarah's smile returned. "They don't have a choice. According to their own transmission, they've tried everything else. We're their last hope." She stood up and walked to the window. The golden Imperial ship was visible in the daylight sky, hanging there like a second moon. "Besides," she said, "I'm curious about these Void Devourers. If they're really as dangerous as the Empire claims, then helping stop them benefits everyone, including us." General Roberts joined her at the window. "And if this is all some kind of trick, then they'll learn why humans survived this long on a planet full of things that want to eat us," Sarah said. "We might not have their fancy technology, but we've got something they seem to have forgotten." "What's that?" "We know how to fight dirty." The late-night comedy shows had a field day. Jimmy Carson, host of Tonight on Earth, stood on his stage with a huge grin. Behind him, a screen showed the Imperial ship still hanging in Earth's sky. "So let me get this straight," he said to his laughing audience. "These aliens have been around for 3,000 years. They have ships that can blow up planets. They control 10,000 star systems, and they need help from the species that just figured out how to make a decent cup of coffee in space." The audience roared with laughter. The clip would be watched by over 1 billion people within 24 hours. But the comedy wasn't limited to Earth. The Empire's own communication networks were picking up human broadcasts, and they were spreading throughout Imperial space. Alien species that had never heard of humans were suddenly seeing memes about their mighty empire begging for help. On the Imperial capital world of Zentara Prime, High Admiral Vex Thorn paced angrily in front of the War Council. He was a reptilian creature with scales that shifted color based on his mood. Right now they were bright red. "This is humiliating," he hissed. "The entire galaxy is laughing at us. Species that we conquered centuries ago are sharing these human jokes about our situation." Ambassador Keth Var stood calmly in the center of the council chamber. His blue skin looked pale under the harsh lights. "The humans' response has been unexpected, but we must remember why we came to them. Our conventional approaches have failed." "Failed?" Admiral Vex Thorn's scales turned darker. "We haven't even tried everything yet. We could mobilize the entire Imperial fleet. We could use the planet-killer weapons." "We tried both approaches in the Kepler sector," replied Science Minister Yithnal, a tall insectoid with multiple eyes. "The Void Devourers absorbed the energy from our planet killers and grew stronger. Our fleets couldn't even damage them." Back on Earth, the mockery continued. Internet forums were full of posts from humans offering helpful suggestions to the Empire. Most of them were jokes, but some were serious attempts to understand the problem. "Have they tried negotiating with these Void Devourers?" posted a user called SpaceMom47. "Maybe they're just hungry and need to be fed something other than planets." "What if they tried using kinetic weapons instead of energy weapons?" asked Starship Trooper 105. "Sometimes the old ways work better than fancy technology," The suggestions were translated and sent to Imperial scientists, who dismissed most of them as primitive thinking, but a few caught their attention. Dr. Sarah Kim was Earth's leading expert on quantum physics. She had been following the Imperial crisis since it began. Unlike most humans, she wasn't laughing. She was studying every piece of data the Empire had shared about the Void Devourers. She worked late into the night in her laboratory at the International Space Research Center. Her desk was covered with printouts of energy readings, gravitational measurements, and spectral analysis reports from Imperial sensors. Something wasn't right about the data. The Void Devourers seemed to exist in normal spacetime, but their interaction with matter was all wrong. Energy weapons passed through them, but they could still consume physical objects like planets and stars. It's like they're only partially here, she muttered to herself, adjusting her glasses as she studied another report. Meanwhile, the Imperial War Council was growing more desperate. 3 more star systems had been consumed while they waited for Earth's response. Refugee fleets filled with billions of aliens were fleeing toward the core worlds. Ambassador HFY received a priority message from the Council. It was short and clear. Get the humans to help us. Do whatever it takes. But the humans seemed more interested in making jokes than providing help. Earth's President Jackson finally agreed to meet with the Imperial delegation, but he chose an unusual location for the meeting. Instead of a formal government building, he met them at a small coffee shop in downtown Geneva. The president sat at a simple wooden table drinking coffee from a paper cup. Across from him sat Ambassador HFY, who looked completely out of place among the human customers. I have to admit, President Jackson said with a smile, this whole situation is pretty funny from our perspective. The ambassador's forearms twitched with frustration. Billions of lives hang in the balance, President Jackson. How can you find this amusing? Because 6 months ago, your empire sent us a message telling us to stay out of Imperial space. You called us an immature species not ready for galactic contact. Now you want our help saving the galaxy. President Jackson took another sip of his coffee. Tell me, Ambassador, what's changed? Are we suddenly more mature, or are you just desperate? The coffee shop had gone quiet. Every human in the place was listening to the conversation. Several were recording it on their phones. Ambassador HFY's skin shifted to a darker blue. In his species, this indicated shame. You are correct, President Jackson. We may have misjudged your species. May have? We did misjudge your species, the ambassador admitted. We saw your wars, your conflicts, your seemingly chaotic approach to problem solving. We assumed you were too primitive to contribute to galactic civilization. An elderly human woman at the next table snorted with laughter. Primitive? Honey, we put a man on the moon with computers less powerful than my toaster. President Jackson grinned. My point exactly. Humans have always been good at making things work with whatever we have available. Maybe that's exactly what you need right now. The video of the coffee shop meeting went viral immediately, but it wasn't just humans watching. Imperial citizens throughout the galaxy saw their ambassador admitting that the Empire had been wrong about Earth. Some Imperial species were angry. The Draknari hegemony, a proud warrior race, issued statements calling the humans upstart primitives who should know their place. But other species were more thoughtful. The Yithian Collective, known for their scientific achievements, published research papers analyzing human history and technology. They concluded that humans showed remarkable adaptability and creative problem-solving abilities. Admiral Sarah Chen watched all of this from her office. The global attention was making her job more difficult, but it was also giving Earth leverage it had never had before. Her assistant, Commander Torres, brought her the latest intelligence reports. The Imperial fleet just lost another engagement with the Void Devourers, he said. This time in the Andromeda Reach, they're running out of time. Good, Sarah replied. The more desperate they get, the more likely they are to listen to us when we finally give them our terms. Speaking of terms, the President wants to know if you've decided what we're asking for. Sarah had been thinking about this for days. Earth could ask for anything, technology, territory, resources, but she had something else in mind. Set up a meeting with the full Imperial delegation, she said. Tell them we're ready to discuss helping them. But the meeting happens here in our space, on our terms. The next day, Ambassador HFY and a full Imperial diplomatic team boarded a shuttle and descended to Earth. They were escorted to the Terran Defense Force headquarters in Colorado. The building was deliberately simple. Concrete and steel, nothing fancy. It was designed to show visitors that humans valued function over form. Sarah met them in a conference room with walls covered in maps of local space and images of human spacecraft. The Imperial delegation sat uncomfortably in chairs designed for human bodies. "Before we discuss helping you," Sarah began, "let's establish some ground rules. Earth is not joining your empire as a junior member. If we work together, it's as equals." Several of the Imperial delegates shifted nervously. Ambassador Kethvar spoke carefully. "The Empire has protocols for membership. There are levels of technological and social development that species must achieve before—" "Before what?" Sarah interrupted. "Before you consider us worthy of your attention? Those protocols didn't stop you from coming here asking for help." The room fell silent. Sarah continued. "Here's how this is going to work. If we help you solve your Void Devourer problem, Earth becomes a full member of the Galactic Empire with all the rights and responsibilities that includes. Not an associate member, not a protectorate. A full member. That's highly irregular," stammered Science Minister Yithnal. "So is your current situation," Sarah replied. "Do you want our help or not?" The Imperial delegation exchanged looks. Finally, Ambassador Kethvar nodded slowly. "If you can truly help us stop the Void Devourers, the Empire will accept those terms." Sarah smiled. "Then let's get to work." Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his ship, the EFS Defiance, and looked out at the strangest fleet he had ever seen. 5 human ships floated in formation with 20 Imperial vessels. The human ships looked like scrap metal compared to the sleek alien designs. But Marcus knew his crew could make their old bucket of bolts do things the fancy Imperial ships never could. "Captain," called out his communications officer, Lieutenant Park. "We're getting a transmission from the Imperial flagship. Put it through." The face of High Admiral Vexthorn appeared on the screen. The reptilian alien scales were a neutral green, which Marcus had learned meant he was trying to be polite. "Captain Rodriguez, are you certain your vessels can keep up with our fleet? We will be traveling at maximum warp speed to reach the contact zone." Marcus grinned. "Don't worry about us, Admiral. We might look slow, but these ships have a few surprises." The truth was, Marcus wasn't sure they could keep up. The human ships had been built with salvaged Imperial technology and parts from a dozen different species. Engineer Garcia had sworn the engines would hold together, but Garcia had been wrong before. The joint fleet had been assembled quickly. Earth's government had chosen 5 of their best ships and crews. They weren't the biggest or most powerful ships in the human fleet, but they were crewed by people who could think fast and adapt to changing situations. Dr. Sarah Kim was aboard the Defiance as the science officer for the mission. She had convinced Admiral Chen to let her join the fleet so she could study the Void Devourers up close. She spent most of her time in the ship's small laboratory, analyzing the Imperial data. "Captain," she called over the intercom, "could you come to the lab? I think I've found something important." Marcus left the bridge in the hands of his first officer and walked down the narrow corridors to Dr. Kim's laboratory. The room was filled with screens showing energy readings and mathematical equations. "What did you find, Doc?" Dr. Kim pointed to a complex graph on her main screen. "I've been analyzing the sensor readings from every Imperial encounter with the Void Devourers. Look at this energy signature." Marcus studied the graph. It looked like a wave pattern, but one that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "What am I looking at?" "The Void Devourers aren't completely in our reality," Dr. Kim explained. "They exist partially in our dimension and partially in what we might call parallel space. That's why energy weapons pass right through them. The weapons exist only in our dimension, but they can still consume matter." "Yes, but not in the way we think. They're not destroying planets and stars. They're converting them into energy that can exist in their dimension. It's like, imagine if you could only touch things with half of your hand." Marcus was starting to understand. "So the Imperial weapons are trying to hit something that's only half there." "Exactly. But here's the interesting part." Dr. Kim pulled up another screen. "The conversion process isn't instant. It takes time, and during that time the Void Devourers are vulnerable." "Vulnerable to what?" "I'm not sure yet, but I think the answer might be simpler than the Empire realizes." The fleet reached the edge of Void Devourer territory 3 days later. The Imperial ships immediately began scanning for threats while maintaining maximum defensive shields. The human ships spread out in a loose formation, their sensors set to different frequencies. Marcus studied the tactical display. Empty space stretched in all directions, but the sensors showed disturbing readings. Stars that should have been there were simply gone, not destroyed, gone, as if they had never existed. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park, "we're detecting movement. Something big." The main screen showed what looked like a cloud of dark energy moving between the empty spaces where stars used to be. As they watched, the cloud approached a small moon orbiting a distant planet. The moon didn't explode or break apart. It simply faded from existence like a photograph slowly becoming transparent. Within minutes, there was nothing left but empty space. "By the depths," whispered Admiral Vex Thorn over the communication channel. "We've never seen one this close before." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The thing was massive, probably the size of a small planet. And according to Imperial records, this was just one of hundreds moving through the galaxy. "Dr. Kim to bridge," came the scientist's voice over the intercom. "I need to get closer to that thing." "Much closer?" "Absolutely not," replied Admiral Vex Thorn before Marcus could respond. "Our protocols require maintaining a safe distance of at least 50,000 kilometers. Your protocols are part of the problem," Marcus said. "You've been studying these things from far away and getting nowhere. Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty." He turned to his helm officer. "Take us in, Lieutenant Santos. Nice and slow." The Defiance broke formation and began approaching the Void Devourer. The Imperial ships held their position, but Marcus could hear heated discussion over the communication channels. "Captain Rodriguez, this is extremely unwise," Admiral Vex Thorn protested. "If that entity detects your ship, then we'll find out what happens," Marcus interrupted. "That's what we're here for." Dr. Kim was getting readings she had never seen before. As they got closer to the Void Devourer, her instruments detected energy patterns that seemed impossible. "Captain, this is incredible," she said over the intercom. "The entity isn't malicious. It's afraid." "Afraid? Of what? I don't know yet. But the energy patterns I'm seeing, they're similar to what we might expect from a distress signal." Marcus made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed in the Imperial Navy. "Open a communication channel. All frequencies." "Sir, we don't know how to communicate with that thing," Lieutenant Park protested. "Then we'll figure it out as we go. Start with basic mathematical sequences. Prime numbers, pi. Anything that might show intelligence." For 30 minutes they broadcast mathematical concepts toward the Void Devourer. Nothing happened. Then Dr. Kim had an idea. "Captain, what if we're thinking about this wrong? These entities exist partially outside our dimension. Maybe they communicate in ways we can't normally perceive." "What are you suggesting?" "Let me try modifying our quantum entanglement communicator. If I can adjust it to broadcast across dimensional barriers." It took Dr. Kim 2 hours to modify the equipment. During that time, the Void Devourer continued moving through space, paying no attention to the human ship. But Marcus noticed something the Imperial records hadn't mentioned. The entity's movement wasn't random. It was following a specific path through the galaxy. "Ready to try the modified communicator," Dr. Kim announced. "Do it." The first attempt produced nothing but static. The second attempt caused every light on the ship to flicker. The third attempt made contact. The bridge speakers erupted with sound that wasn't quite sound, something that human ears could hear, but that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was like listening to music played underwater while standing in a thunderstorm. Then, impossibly, the sounds began to form words. "Help. Us." The bridge crew stared at each other in shock. Marcus was the first to recover. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Defiance. Can you understand us?" "Yes." "You are different from the others. You listen." Dr. Kim was recording everything, her hands shaking with excitement. "Ask them what they need help with." "What kind of help do you need?" Marcus asked. The response came with waves of emotion that somehow transmitted through the modified communicator. Fear, sadness, and desperate hope. Our home, our reality, it dies. We must find new place, but we do not know how. We take what we can. To survive, Marcus looked at Dr. Kim, who nodded. Her theory had been correct. The Void Devourers weren't invaders. They were refugees. "You're converting matter from our dimension so you can exist here?" Marcus asked. "Yes, but it hurts the things that live here. We do not want to hurt. But we do not know another way. Admiral Vexthorn's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Captain Rodriguez, what is happening? Our sensors show massive energy fluctuations around your ship." "We're talking to them, Admiral," Marcus replied. "And you're not going to believe what they just told us." Over the next hour, Marcus and Dr. Kim learned the truth about the Void Devourers. They were the last survivors of a collapsing universe, forced to flee into this reality to survive. They had been converting matter not out of malice, but out of desperation. "There are others like you?" Dr. Kim asked. "Many others, scattered across your galaxy, all trying to survive, all afraid. What would you need to survive here without converting inhabited planets?" There was a long pause before the entity responded. "Empty spaces, places where no life grows. We could exist there, but we do not know which places are safe." Marcus smiled for the first time since the mission began. "I think we can help with that." He opened the channel to the Imperial fleet. "Admiral Vexthorn, you're going to want to hear this." 3 weeks later, the communication network was almost complete. Dr. Kim stood on the bridge of the new ship the Empire had given her, a massive research vessel called the Harmony. It was 10 times bigger than any human ship and filled with the most advanced technology the galaxy had to offer. But the ship's most important feature was built by humans. In the center of the vessel was Dr. Kim's transdimensional communication array, a device that looked like it had been built in someone's garage but could talk to beings in other realities. "Final communication node coming online," reported Chief Engineer Martinez, who had transferred from the Defiance. "Network is at full power." The network consisted of 50 communication stations spread throughout Imperial space. Each one was built around human-designed quantum entanglement cores, but powered by Imperial energy systems that could generate enough power to light up a small planet. Captain Rodriguez was aboard his old ship, the Defiance, coordinating with Void Devourer groups across the galaxy. In the past 3 weeks, he had spoken with over 30 different entities. Each conversation taught him something new about their species and their desperate situation. "Harmony, this is Defiance," Marcus called over the communication link. "We've got contact with the group near the Spiral Nebula. They're ready to test the first relocation." Dr. Kim activated the main communication array. The bridge filled with the strange multi-dimensional sound of Void Devourer communication. "Human friends," came the translated voice of the entity they had first contacted. "We are grateful. The empty places you have shown us, they are safe for our kind?" "They should be," Dr. Kim replied. "The Corvari wastes have been empty space for millions of years. No life, no inhabited worlds within 50 light years. You can exist there safely. And the other beings will not attack us there?" That was the difficult question. While the communication network was being built, several Imperial species had continued military operations against Void Devourers. The Draknari had actually managed to wound one of the entities using modified reality-cracking weapons. "We're working on that," Marcus said honestly. "Most of the Empire wants to help, but some species still see you as a threat." Admiral Vexthorn's voice came over the communication link from his flagship. "The majority of the Imperial Council supports the relocation plan. Military action against cooperative Void Devourers has been officially banned. But not all species follow Imperial Council orders," added Ambassador Kethvar from the diplomatic vessel. "The Draknari have declared the Council's decision politically motivated weakness." Dr. Kim had been studying the Draknari weapons attacks. "The good news is that their weapons can only hurt you when you're in the process of converting matter. When you're in stable locations, you're essentially invisible to them." The relocation began slowly. One Void Devourer at a time moved to carefully chosen empty regions of space. The process required precise coordination. The entities had to travel through inhabited areas to reach their new homes, and Imperial ships had to provide escorts to prevent attacks by hostile species. The first success came in the Outer Rim territories. A group of 5 Void Devourers settled in an area of space that had been empty since a supernova cleared it out millions of years ago. They began the complex process of converting small amounts of local matter to create a stable dimensional anchor. "It's working," reported Dr. Kim after monitoring the process for several days. "They've established a permanent settlement that exists partially in our dimension and partially in theirs. They're no longer consuming random matter. They're only taking what they need from asteroids and cosmic dust." But the success attracted unwanted attention. War Commander Thek Mul of the Draknari had been planning his own solution to the Void Devourer problem. He had been building a massive fleet armed with every forbidden weapon the Empire had ever banned. All vessels. This is War Commander Tekmul, came his broadcast to the Draknari fleet. The Empire's weakness has allowed these dimensional parasites to establish permanent infection sites in our galaxy. Today we cleanse them with fire. The Draknari attack fleet consisted of over 200 ships, including several dreadnoughts equipped with reality-cracking weapons. They jumped into the Outer Rim territories and immediately began firing on the Void Devourer settlement. But something unexpected happened. The weapons that had worked against individual Void Devourers had almost no effect on the dimensional anchor they had created. The settlement absorbed the energy from the attacks and actually grew stronger. "This is impossible," transmitted one of the Draknari ship commanders. "The reality crackers should be tearing them apart." Dr. Kim, monitoring the battle from the Harmony, understood what was happening. "They're not just individuals anymore," she explained over the emergency communication channel. "They've created a stable dimensional bridge. The energy from the weapons is being absorbed and redirected to strengthen the bridge." The Draknari continued their attack for 3 hours. Instead of destroying the Void Devourers, they accidentally helped them create the most stable dimensional anchor anyone had ever seen. War Commander Thekmul was forced to retreat with his fleet, but he sent one final message to the Empire. "You have doomed us all," he transmitted. "These creatures are now stronger than ever, and it's the fault of human weakness and imperial cowardice." But on the bridge of the Harmony, Dr. Kim was seeing something different in her sensor readings. The Void Devourers weren't becoming more aggressive or dangerous. They were becoming more stable. "They're not feeding anymore," she reported to Admiral Vexthorn. "The dimensional anchor is providing all the energy they need to maintain their existence in our reality. They don't have to consume matter anymore." The success of the first settlement led to rapid expansion of the program. Over the following months, Void Devourer communities were established in dozens of empty regions throughout the galaxy. Each settlement was connected to the others through the transdimensional communication network. The settlements also became sources of incredible scientific discovery. The Void Devourers shared knowledge from their dying universe, including technologies and scientific principles that no species in the galaxy had ever imagined. Dr. Kim found herself at the center of a scientific revolution. "They understand physics in ways we never thought possible," she explained during a lecture at the Imperial Science Academy. "They've shown us how to manipulate space-time on scales we didn't know existed. But the most important discovery was something simpler. The Void Devourers, once they were stable and safe, revealed themselves to be natural teachers and explorers. They began sharing stories, art, and music from their lost universe. Captain Rodriguez was aboard the Defiance visiting one of the settlements when he first heard Void Devourer music. It sounded like the birth of stars mixed with the whisper of wind through cosmic dust. "It's beautiful," he said to the entity he had first contacted, which had taken the name Echo in honor of their first communication. "It is the song of our people," Echo replied. "We thought it would die with our universe. But here in your reality it can live again." The transformation wasn't complete overnight. Some Imperial species, particularly the Draknari, refused to accept the new situation. They established their own territories and continued to view the Void Devourers as invaders. But the majority of the galaxy adapted to the new reality. Trade routes were established that passed through Void Devourer space, protected by the entity's ability to manipulate space-time. Travel times between distant regions of the galaxy were reduced by months. The Empire itself began to change. The success of the human approach to the crisis led to changes in Imperial protocols and decision-making processes. Species that had been considered too primitive for membership were re-evaluated. Admiral Sarah Chen received a message from Ambassador Kethvar 6 months after the first settlement was established. "The Imperial Council has voted," the message said. "Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Empire, with all the rights and privileges thereof. Additionally, the Council has voted to establish the Department of Alternative Solutions, to be headed by human advisors to handle future crises that conventional approaches cannot solve." Sarah read the message twice before laughing. "They want us to be their official problem solvers for weird situations." President Jackson, who was with her in the command center, shook his head in amazement. "A year ago, they wouldn't even talk to us. Now they want us to solve their impossible problems." "That's humans for you," Sarah replied. "We specialize in impossible problems." Final chapter of the crisis came when Echo made a request that surprised everyone. We would like to share our universe song with all beings in the galaxy, the entity said during a broadcast that reached every world in Imperial space. Music should not belong to just one species or one reality. It should belong to everyone. The concert that followed was the largest cultural event in galactic history. Beings from thousands of species gathered in person and through communication links to hear the music of a dying universe, performed by entities that existed between realities. Dr. Kim stood on the observation deck of the Harmony, watching the concert through the ship's view screen. Void devourers throughout the galaxy were singing together. The Imperial War Council emergency meeting was held in space aboard Admiral Vex Thorn's flagship. Representatives from dozens of species appeared as holograms around the massive conference table. The mood was tense and confused. "Let me understand this correctly," said Grand Marshal Zix Terra, leader of the hegemony forces. Her insectoid features showed clear skepticism. "The humans claim these void devourers are refugees?" Admiral Vex Thorn's scales shifted to an uncomfortable orange color. "That is what Captain Rodriguez reported. According to their communication with the entity, the void devourers are fleeing from a collapsing universe." "And you believe this human fairy tale?" demanded War Commander Thekmul of the Draknari. "These creatures have consumed 47 star systems. Billions of our people are dead." Ambassador Kethvar stood to address the council. "I was skeptical as well, War Commander. But the humans accomplished something we could not. They established communication with the entities. Perhaps we should listen to what they learned." Dr. Sarah Kim sat in a small chair at one end of the massive table, feeling very out of place among the alien military leaders. She had been asked to present her findings to the council. "The evidence supports the communication data," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "The void devourers exist partially in our dimension, and partially in what appears to be a collapsing parallel space. They're converting matter from our reality into energy that can exist in their dying universe. Even if this is true," said Science Minister Yithnal, "it does not change the fact that they are destroying inhabited worlds." "But that's just it," Dr. Kim replied. "They don't want to destroy inhabited worlds. According to our communication, they can't distinguish between empty space and space with life in it. To them, matter is just matter." Captain Rodriguez had been silent through most of the meeting, but now he spoke up. "The entity we talked to seemed genuinely sorry about the damage they've caused. They said they're just trying to survive." War Commander Thekmul slammed one of his 4 fists on the table. "Survival does not excuse genocide." "No, it doesn't," Marcus agreed. "But it gives us a chance to find a solution that doesn't involve trying to destroy them." "What kind of solution?" asked Admiral Vex Thorn. Marcus looked at Dr. Kim, who nodded. "We help them find places where they can exist without harming inhabited worlds. Empty space, dead star systems, regions where there's no life to be affected." The council erupted in arguments. Half the representatives thought the idea was impossible. The other half thought it was insane. Grand Marshal Zix Terra spoke over the noise. "Even assuming this could work, how would we convince all the void devourers to cooperate? There are hundreds of them spread across the galaxy. The same way we convinced the first one," Marcus said. "We talked to them." "That's impossible," declared Science Minister Yithnal. "The communication equipment the humans used was experimental and dangerous. It nearly overloaded their ship's power systems." Dr. Kim stood up. "Actually, I think I can solve that problem. But I'm going to need help from Imperial scientists, and I'm going to need resources." "What kind of resources?" asked Ambassador Kethvar. "A lot of ships, a lot of power generators, and a lot of people willing to take risks that your protocols probably don't allow." While the council debated, something was happening in the field. The void devourer that Marcus had communicated with was spreading the word to others of its kind. The entities had their own way of communicating across dimensional barriers, much faster than any physical signal. Lieutenant Santos, monitoring long-range sensors aboard the Defiance, noticed something strange. "Captain, you need to see this." Marcus joined him at the sensor station. The display showed void devourer movement patterns across the local region. Instead of the random paths they had followed before, the entities were gathering in specific locations. "They're moving away from inhabited systems," Santos observed. "Look at this. 3 of them just changed course to avoid a colony world." Dr. Kim studied the sensor data. The one we talked to must have communicated with the others. They're trying to avoid causing more damage. But the Imperial Council was still debating whether to trust the humans' plan. War Commander Thek Mul was pushing for a massive military assault using every weapon in the Imperial arsenal. We should strike now, while they're gathering together, he argued. This might be our only chance to destroy them all at once. With what weapons? Asked Admiral Vexthorn. Everything we've tried has been useless against them. Then we used the forbidden weapons. The reality crackers, the dimension bombs, the star killers we swore never to use again. The council fell silent. The weapons Thek Mul mentioned had been banned for good reasons. They could destroy not just planets or star systems, but entire regions of spacetime. Ambassador Kethvar spoke quietly. If we use those weapons, we become worse than the threat we're trying to stop. Marcus had been listening to the debate through the communication link. He couldn't stay quiet any longer. You're all missing the point, he said, interrupting the council session. These entities have the power to consume entire star systems. If they wanted to destroy the galaxy, they could have done it already. The fact that they're trying to avoid inhabited worlds after we talk to them proves they don't want to hurt anyone. But can we trust them? Asked Grand Marshal Zixtara. Can they trust us? Marcus replied. We've been shooting at them for months without trying to understand what they were or what they wanted. Now we're talking about using forbidden weapons against refugees who are just trying to survive. Dr. Kim had been working on her communication device while the debate continued. She had an idea that might solve the trust problem. What if we could establish permanent communication with all of them? She suggested. Not just temporary contact, but ongoing dialogue. We could coordinate safe zones for them throughout the galaxy. How? Asked Science Minister Yithnal. Quantum entanglement networks modified for transdimensional communication. We'd need to build communication stations throughout Imperial space, all linked together. The Void Devourers could communicate with us in real time about where they need to go and what they need to survive. Admiral Vexthorn's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue color. That would require massive resources and cooperation between all Imperial species. Yes, Dr. Kim agreed. But it would also create the first galaxy-wide communication network capable of transdimensional contact. Think of the scientific advances that could come from that. The council debated for another hour. Finally, Ambassador Kethvar called for a formal vote. The question was simple. Try the human plan or proceed with military action. The vote was closer than anyone expected. Several species voted for military action, including the Draknari and the hegemony forces, but the majority, led by the Yithian Collective and surprisingly supported by Admiral Vexthorn's own fleet, voted to try diplomacy. The human plan is approved, Ambassador Kethvar announced. Dr. Kim, you'll have access to our best scientists and engineers. Captain Rodriguez, your ships will coordinate the first phase of contact operations. War Commander Thek Mul stood abruptly, his forearms crossed. This is a mistake that will cost us the galaxy. When this plan fails, remember that the Draknari offered a real solution. He cut his communication link, leaving his hologram to fade away. Marcus looked at Dr. Kim, who was already making notes for the communication network design. Think this will work, Doc? I think it's our best chance, she replied. But we're going to have to move fast. The Void Devourers are still consuming matter to survive, and some Imperial species aren't going to wait long for results. Admiral Vexthorn's image leaned forward. What do you need first? Marcus smiled. A bigger ship, better equipment, and about 50 volunteers who aren't afraid of impossible odds. You'll have them, the Admiral promised. But Captain, if this fails, if the Void Devourers betray our trust, then you can say I told you so right before the galaxy ends, Marcus finished. But if it works, we'll have accomplished something no one thought possible. Dr. Kim looked up from her notes. We'll have proven that sometimes the best weapon against an impossible threat is an open mind and a willingness to listen. The human approach to the crisis was about to begin in earnest. But across the galaxy, other species were making their own plans, and not all of them involved diplomacy.